I want to touch on a couple of, before I go deeper into hallucinations, I want to touch on a couple of things of something we see a lot in the market, which is people move from a kind of a POC stage to kind of an enterprise deployment. And so what happens a lot is that, the realization lands that this is actually not as easy as it may first appear. And so a couple of things we see that are challenges for people doing this transition is, one, you still, in enterprise, you do want to have these citations. It's almost mandatory for people to see where the data comes from and whether we can trust it or not. And of course, to have mechanisms to detect and reduce hallucinations, because that's absolutely necessary in enterprises too, especially in regulated industries like financial services or healthcare, et cetera, or insurance. Enterprise security and privacy is key and almost like table stakes. So you got to have your encryption in transit and in storage, and you have to have SOC 2, Type 2, and all the other things that you need to have. And again, our platform supports all of that because it's almost mandatory to even enter into enterprise deployment. Scale becomes an interesting thing, right? Things that work at low scale, like 5 or 10 or 50 documents, end up not working as well when you have 100,000 or 1,000,000 documents. And this is not only systems engineering things where the latency becomes, a problem or things like this, but also the quality of the results. Retrieval is much harder to do right when you do it at scale. So, people think about the generation and the retrieval, the vector database, but honestly, you need a lot more in the retrieval engine to make it work, because what happens is, imagine you have 10 documents and you have a query. The amount of chunks of text or pieces of facts that you want to bring in from your retrieval engine is pretty limited. I know, maybe it's 100 or 200 or whatever. But when you have 1,000,000 documents, sort of the competition is much higher. So you have a lot more things that might compete to be in that top 10 rag facts. And so getting that retrieval, that accuracy is really, really key. And it gets harder to do right. You want to put in some guardrails. You want to put in things that protect against not safe at work responses and things like that. That's really important too. And as I said, being able to deploy this with all those features, with the security, with all those things that come with the full stack on a VPC or on-prem is also kind of mandatory. And last, I want to say, people build, but then you have to also think about who does your production application support? Like, if something goes wrong, is it a vector database you have to check? When you build it yourself, you have to figure out all those different pieces. And it's unclear sometimes where the problem is. So having one coherent system that works together and you can get this support being done properly is really key as well to succeed in a project overall.